remember the little things. The ones we all come to appreciate, perhaps a little too late. That feeling of comfort our little eyes first understood to be home. Those little conversations we still think about, the ones that shaped us. Those little stretches of time we thought would last forever, but to our surprise, had a final moment written into the story. Oh, those little things. I remember going to a concert in high school. It was at the Orpheum in Boston, Massachusetts. I went with two of my friends. Had an amazing time, and years and years have obviously passed, and recently I asked myself, what is it I remember about that day? Why is it such a powerful moment for me? And interestingly enough, I don't remember any of the songs that were sung or how well they were played. I don't remember what I bought or what I wore or what teenage troubles I was going through at the time. No, years later, I remember how it felt to stand there in the center of that theater. Color of the lights filling up the room, the bass drum resonating in my chest, aligning with my heartbeat, the people I was with. And the funny thing is, 17-year-old me had no clue he was driving into the city for a night he'd remember forever, but not because of the music. No, because of a feeling. Because he would spend the time with the same people he would have hung out with anyway at home. And perhaps subconsciously I knew, perhaps we all do, but at the time, it all felt like details. At the time, they were simply included in the story, a buy one, get one, if you will. Oh, how they hide themselves, those little things. In a way, it's not too different from the oxygen we breathe in and breathe out, intertwined in everyday life, necessary to carry on, to grow, to evolve, yet only missed when it's gone. We don't think about the air we breathe unless, of course, we are submerged and without it. So why does this matter? Why put this thought to paper? Well, because to use my previous concert hall metaphor, I've spent so much of my life thinking about the stage presence, the accuracy of the notes, the visual appearances, the wrong things. It seemed intuitive, overwhelmingly obvious, but now they're just reminders. How easily we can walk on what matters to get our hands on what doesn't. Do we know what's important? Do we know what we hold dear? Do we think enough about those little things? Every time the caller ID says mom or dad or nana banana, when my little brother and sister get new apartments, jobs, promotions, start navigating this crazy world, every time I open my laptop and get to bleed my thoughts onto a blank page over a cup of coffee and a sunrise, running around random towns across this country with my best friends, bringing ideas to life. See, the now tells you they are nice things, happy things, lovely things. But it doesn't let you in on the greatest secret of all. Those little things just might be everything. So see them while you're in them and hold on tight. 80% of life is simply showing up. Because no matter what you do, and this is such an interesting truth, it's like no matter how much you love what you do, there are days where you just aren't in it. You just mentally, and maybe even physically, you're just not there. And those are the days when it's most important to start. And the expectation doesn't need to be the world. The expectation doesn't need to be that it's something game-changing or revolutionary, but the expectation has to be that you are the kind of person that even when you don't want to, you sit yourself in front of that computer and you just start typing. And maybe nothing comes from it, maybe something does, but you showed up. You know, when it was most difficult, you showed up. And the interesting thing is that sometimes that situation is exactly when the best stuff comes. You know, believe it or not, when we don't want to be there, or we're really using, all the discipline we have left in our body to make it happen, great things come from those moments. You know, it applies to every single thing we do. Like all of these concepts, we're all different. We're all, in different worlds with different narratives, different stories, different priorities. But, that will always be a commonality. There are times when you don't want to do what you most need to do. And the ability to, and actually, I'm going to backstep, like, it is an identity thing. It is seeing yourself as that. The person that makes it happen. The person that finds it within themselves to show up, to be there, to just do something to get the ball rolling. Let's look at this one simple, singular concept. You can always be doing more than you're doing. Whether you're sitting there or whether you are in a world of hurt, going through hell, there is a way to level up. There is a next level. There's something more. There is the next stair in the staircase. And sometimes we just simply need to be reminded that, because the default is comfortable. Even when you push yourself to a level you've never pushed before. Well, guess what? The ceiling becomes the floor. Your new normal, you adapt very quickly. And sometimes you need that whispering in your ear, hey, you're comfortable. You can do a little bit more. You can always do a little bit more. There's no rule that says you can't be 1 second faster. There's no rule that says you can't push a little bit harder. And, that message I keep in my back pocket, because every time I draw from it, I improve. My life improves. And, if you have aspirations, which I know everyone listening to this or watching this does, right? That's why we watch this content. That's why I create it. That's why you guys do what you do. We want more. We know what we can get from life. We know that infinite pool of possibility to draw from. So why waste it? And the more you get that reminder, no matter what you're doing, hey, there's more in you, period. That will never be a false statement. There is more in you. And I'm really implementing that right now into the creative aspect of my life. I went from 1 video every 10 days to 1 every day. And there's a growing pain, and sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's it's tough to be able to create at that level. But the reward is through the roof. And the change, it occurs quickly. And I was talking to someone about it, and he says, well, that'll be nothing when you're doing 3 a day. And it's like, that's the way you need to look at the world. There's always more in you. And if you don't remind yourself of that, it just goes untapped, right? Like, again, I could easily see a situation where I just put out 1 video a day or 1 video every 10 days for the rest of my life. I'd never know what that other door could unlock. So whether it's running, whether it's work, whether it's at home, whether it's a relationship, whether it's something you're building, whether it's something you want to create, whether it's something you want to stop doing, you can always be doing it a little bit better, a little bit faster. And that's what this video is about, and I hope you remember that. I hope this is that whispering in your ear that you need, to remind yourself, hey, I'm operating here at a fraction of what I could be doing. I'm tiptoeing right now. I could be sprinting. there will be no surrender. No, not in this lifetime. There will be knowledge picked up along the way, I have no doubt. There will be adaptation. There will be adjustments made. But there will be no surrender. And look, should life require change, I will evolve. Should it demand growth, I will rise to the occasion. Should suffering be entangled in my pursuit, I will weather that storm. But these things, they will not be the end of me. No, they are little beginnings. The consistent rebirth attached to one who refuses to back down. Because look, I may not be the most talented. I may not be the best suited or best equipped to break through. I may not be the most knowledgeable, but I will always have enough. Enough in the face of danger, standing in the shadow of adversity, to take one step forward, to transform the chaos into triumph. One courageous yes at a time. There will be no surrender here. Not now, not today, not in this lifetime. I will find a way through. When night is dark, when the road is long, when the path so lonely that the world speaks not a sound, I will find a way. And sure, there may be frustration, maybe even fear, but there will, because of an undying self-belief, be no surrender. Promise yourself, not that you'll know everything, but that you will continue forward when you don't. Promise yourself, not that you'll avoid pain, but that you'll find meaning in pain as it arises. That you'll use it to shape your destiny like fire forging metal. Promise yourself not that you'll remain undefeated, but that you will transform amidst defeat like a phoenix rising from the ashes. We're often inclined to look around and see the current state as a reflection of our abilities and our potential. But right now is merely a culmination of decisions made up to this point. Just because the map you've been following has led you to a dead end, doesn't mean the world consists only of dead ends. Separate yourself from the walls around you. Separate the map you've been following from the world's landscape in totality. Let's look at not what has occurred, but what's possible. Let's understand that we all face dead ends. We all find ourselves amidst disappointing outcomes, times we've fallen short. This is not a you thing. This is a human thing. This is a life thing. And so here's the question. Are you going to look around and say, this failure is me? This is who I am? Or are you going to understand that life is ups and downs? And the ones who win, who truly live, don't define themselves by their difficult times. No, they depersonalize and leverage that adversity. Those who make it out do so because they saw themselves not synonymous with the valley of despair as they trudged through, They saw themselves as passers-by, strong enough to climb out, destined for higher peaks. That past, it is not you. Remind yourself of that. Say it out loud if you have to. You are your very next step. You're the road untraveled. You're the summits to be reached and the stories to be told. And yeah, you won't have all the answers, but they're not required to press on. You won't always be pain-free, but it's from that pain you'll find your wisdom and your strength. And of course, you won't always win, but every defeat brings you a little closer to what matters. Just as that phoenix rises from the ashes, you too will transcend that which has fallen around you. You too will rise above what is in pursuit of what will be. Just promise yourself, not that you'll be perfect, not that you'll always be right, but that you'll have the courage to evolve even when you're not. There's a very specific place I encounter almost every day, where the sidewalk ends, a crossroads exists, and anyone who approaches it is presented with a handful of options. As time's gone on, I've formed quite the relationship with this spot. You're probably wondering why. Who cares? Don't you have better things to think about than the end of a concrete slab? Well, let me ask you something. At its core, how do you define success? What is getting what you want? What does that take? Because if someone asked me, I wouldn't have to say a word. I could point to that random, arbitrary intersection and let it do all the talking for me. So let me explain. For those who know nothing about me, I am an avid runner. And almost daily, I put my running shoes on, I hit the pavement, most of the time long distances, sometimes middle distance. And it's a sacred time for me to push myself, to test my will, ultimately to see if I can be better today than I was yesterday. And every time I approach the end of my workout, I inevitably arrive at this spot, which is about a mile from my doorstep. And it forces me to ask a serious question. How bad do you want to win? My situation is simple. I can continue going straight. I can stay on the paved road where eventually another path forms and leads me to my doorstep. Or I can go left, I can jump onto the beach and finish that last mile off on the sand. Certainly not a life or death decision. Both paths lead me home. But I'll tell you something, when you're tired, when you're thirsty, when you've been running in the South Florida sun in August, running in the soft sand sucks, and it sucks just enough that you question every step. And I remember the first time I opted for the beach, right? Didn't think too much of it, but very quickly that changed. As every step sunk into the sand, as the sun glared down at me, I immediately began looking for a cop-out. Every thought revolved around the idea that I could stop, that this was stupid, it was unnecessary discomfort. Why the hell didn't I just stay on the sidewalk? But as you can imagine, time passed and I arrived home. The next time presented with the same situation, I went left and I felt the same way. But having done it before seemed to ease my mind. I put up with the physical obstacles, the mental gymnastics, and I got home. And then there was a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time, and then it became part of my routine. And a few weeks in, I realized that my thinking was completely different. And this is the important part, okay? See, now at this point, there were no negative thoughts. There was no self-loathing. My brain wasn't creating a sob story or attempting to highlight the impracticality of my decision. No, it was just routine. It was just what happens when you approach the end of your run. It doesn't matter how far you've gone, how hard you've pushed, how tired you are. You go left. You run on the beach. That's it, period. And it's a funny thing, when you've convinced yourself there are no other options, it becomes incredibly easy to adapt. You may understand where I'm going with this little story, because the moral isn't about running or the beach or Florida summers. It's about laughing in the face of those little inconveniences life throws at you. Doing the small things that make you better, putting yourself through the struggle in the short term for the win in the long term, training your mind to become stronger. Because I'll tell you, when it's hot, when you're tired, it becomes incredibly difficult to think about the macro. Our mind focuses on the small things, the now. Why put yourself through unnecessary hell? But what we learn when we do this is that not only do we become accustomed to anything, but we want the next thing. The reward becomes bigger than the temporary struggle. It's a mutual exchange, sweat for progress, pain for momentum, for a win. Humans are incredible in what they can achieve, how they can adapt to problems and rise above any set of circumstances. And this means when you come to your crossroads, maybe it's not physical. Maybe it's completely mental. Maybe it's a decision that you're scared to make, an obstacle you've been avoiding. It means you stop taking the easy road and you run right through it. You collect your bruises and scars and come out better for it, because those small decisions matter. The meaningless runs in the sand become very meaningful. They're the roots that grow into your subconscious mind, that encourage risks, that whisper in your ear that you're better, that you're worthy of more. And if you can't train your mind to fight the small battles, the big victories will forever remain a myth, reserved for the people you see on TV, the biographies you read on the weekends, and that's not you. You're not average, so stop thinking like you are. Evolve. Start stacking your pain, your discomfort, the little inconveniences you avoid. Stack them like bricks, because in time, you'll have something very real to stand on. I want to talk about a myth. And it's a myth, it's an idea that's commonplace in our lives, and it's rooted in a lot of the decisions we make, as well as the actions that we do not take. And it's this idea of certainty, of a formula, something that's already out there that will get you from point A to point B. See, breaking it down further, there are two things you need to know about certainty. One is that it's an idea derived from fiction. There's no way of knowing exactly what the top of the mountain will look like. And waiting for that to materialize, to have that crystal clear step-by-step formula, it creates stagnation. We don't have perfection, so we don't move. It's one of those things where you wait, and days turn to days, and more days, and weeks, and months, and years, and eventually regret. Why? Because we were not certain. And what do? See, this leads to the second piece. We study everything. We live in a time where we have access to unlimited resources. And it's this incredible thing, right? We can study the LeBron James, the Jeff Bezos, the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world. We can see exactly what they did. We can see how they think, how they approach problems, how they get to solutions. And on one hand, it's an unbelievable benefit. Knowledge is power. But on the other hand, there's a cost. And this cost can be extremely detrimental because it mitigates the most important thing in your life, and that is your unique self. What makes you valuable? What do you bring to the world? What makes you tick? And I'll tell you right now, you do not find that by studying how Jeff Bezos started Amazon and attempting to duplicate it. You don't find that by simply copying LeBron James' workout routine. Your value, your source of happiness, that's discovered moving forward through ups and downs, falling and getting back up, not once, not twice, but repeatedly. And it's through those trials and tribulations that you carve out who you are. But if you wait for the perfect moment, you'll never find it, which means you will never go through this process. I often think back to my days in the corporate world, in the insurance industry, being in a situation that I was not thriving in. And if someone sat me down and said, Eddie, what do you want to do? What is the top of the mountain? What does success look like to you? I couldn't answer that. But what I did know is that I loved to create. I loved to speak, to write, compose music, produce videos, just put out content. That's what I was destined to do, and I knew it. But if I waited to move until I knew exactly what my life would look like, until there was, this path perfectly paved to the finish line, I'd still be there. I'd be in a cubicle crunching numbers in Excel in a weirdly painted beige room. But sometimes you have to move forward. Trust your gut, your instincts, what you love to do. Embrace the idea, the fact that you'll fall down and you'll get back up, but that it will shape you. And that as you go on living your passion, your purpose, thriving in life, the pieces come together. You have to trust that, even when it's not certain, because I'll tell you what is certain. If you do not move, you will not achieve. That world will spin right around you. I read a book a few months ago called Hatching Twitter. Simple read. It's about the founders of Twitter, Jack, Ev, all these guys with their different ideas and different, notions of what this company is going to be. It started out as, I believe, a online radio company, and it evolved, and there were pivots and adjustments and alterations, and they kept moving forward, and they kept growing. And there's one point where they have a valuation of millions and millions of dollars. And they're having a conversation like, what is our company? Is real-time news the focus? Are we promoting social interaction? Like, what is it? How do we brand this? How do we market it? What do we have on our hands? This is a company worth millions of dollars. Talk about just moving forward, taking it one step at a time. Things will change, they'll evolve, but you have to give yourself an opportunity for that to happen. Imagine if they never left the garage or whatever room they started the company in because they didn't know what it would be in 2017. We wouldn't have Twitter. And that applies to everything around us, right? We have this idea that, things were meant to be, they were destined. No. Things exist around us because of risks that were taken. Because people pushed forward until they got a result, until they knew what they were meant to do, and it materialized. And that is life. So don't be scared to take that step. Don't be nervous to fall down. You need that. The world needs that, because without it, we'll have could-be's and some days, but not the existence that we want. that you deserve, that you're capable of acquiring. No longer is certainty the standard. Progress is the standard, and your life will change.